everybody, and welcome to the 63rd episode of Growing Up Geek. That is the weekly podcast for geek entertainment and nostalgia. My name is Brad, and I am joined by a man who camped the line all night for the new Lazarus AD album, my brother Rob.
Rock on! Actually, I have no idea if that's what they sound like.
Like a second before we started recording, Rob was like, all right, the new Lazarus AD is out. And I'm like, I just got my intro.
There you go.
63, very significant number, Rob. I don't know if you know this, but Jim Carrey told me that if you add your birthday plus the date the Titanic sank, divided by 4, why 4? I don't know. You come up with 63.
Because 4 is the number of the Horsemen of the Apocalypse, obviously.
Whose album also came out today.
Bass player's kind of a jerk.
But you had a life story of some kind you were going to dispel to our audience.
Right. I was a bit delayed in getting to the show today because I picked up the Rock Band stage kit.
Whoa!
Whoa, indeed.
I don't know what that is.
Rock Band stage kit is basically a fog machine, a strobe light, and a light show all together.
Oh, no way.
That you plug into the remaining USB port on your 360.
Because there's only one left after you plug in everything else.
Exactly. It's the one directly. They say don't plug it into the hub. Plug it into the Xbox, and then it syncs up with the game and basically illuminates the whole room as if you were actually on the stage in the game.
And pumps rock fog
and
between your legs.
Fog everywhere.
This is a first in video game history. There was the Power Glove, and that was fine, but now we are pumping rock fog.
Right. There are
into
juices that we'll have to go out and buy more of.
So, I was going to say, so what are the juices?
Well, it's actually...
Like, do you need to replenish the supply on this thing?
Yeah, I mean, it's fog juice, which is kind of just like a... it's a form of water.
It's just household fog juice.
Right, household fog juice. It's non-toxic. You can breathe it. It's fine. If you've ever been at a theater show, they do that same thing.
But it's that Disneyland smell.
I'd seen this thing was in production, but what pushed me over the edge was Circuit City is going out of business, and they had one there. They had one box of this thing. Nobody bought it because nobody else knows what it is.
Bottom line it for me. Is this worth buying?
Well, at the price that I got it at, $40, definitely worth buying.
Okay.
At $100, still may be worth buying if you're that into it, because I gotta say, this thing does an incredible job. I was expecting a bit of fog, and like strobe, and then like kind of a glowing controller, but not really. This thing is shooting light beams around the room in the color of the stage on the screen.
Oh, that's awesome.
And so everything is awesome. We did Foreplay Long Time by Boston.
Yeah.
Which just starts off and just builds and builds. And the lights were like going along with it. The strobe was like synced with the drums. It was really
that sounds
amazing.
Great.
And like even to think that the downloadable songs that you get contain this data to control this light show. It's a whole nother aspect of Rock Band that makes it awesome. That I feel like if you don't have it, you're sort of missing out on like more of the work that Harmonix has put in to just make this game an incredible experience. So
I think at this point we'll have to start accepting money from Harmonix because we have advertised for Rock Band way too much on this show.
Because it's just that good.
Yeah, that is so cool. And unfortunately, that's not what we're talking about today, but let's move on.
It's our life story.
Yeah, it's a life story. You know, Life is a House starring Hayden Christensen, available now on Blu-ray.
Yes.
So let's move on to Geek News. Every week we like to read some news stories and then bring you our favorite. And Rob, why don't you start off? Which was your favorite story this week?
Well, favorite news story this week, something interesting that happened. I mean, people know, but the new Jimmy Fallon show came on TV, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, not Late Night with Conan O'Brien. And it turned out to be not so bad.
Yeah, good intro.
Good intro. We started off with Conan O'Brien there, and he's packing up things while Jimmy Fallon is moving in.
Oh, nice.
And it was that whole kind of just awkward situation.
Awkward glances.
Great deadpan expressions from Conan as Jimmy Fallon's like, hey, so is this going to be, fun and stuff? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Now, we had talked about this a little bit last week as it related to Jimmy Fallon's kind of technique. He wants to go a little bit more high-tech with his show.
Right.
And a lot of geeks are interested in that. Did he deliver on that? Or
no.
What were your opinions?
No. There wasn't anything noticeable like that he did yet. There was a lot of audience participation. He did game called Lick It for 10, where basically he'd bring out an item and you'd have to lick it for $10. Now the interesting thing was it wasn't really anything disturbing. It was like lick a lawnmower, lick a microwave, and lick a goldfish bowl.
Interesting.
But I liked how the Roots are the house band, and I was kind of wondering how he was going to use that, especially because they have a singer like as a prominent person.
That's true. So the singer's there too?
Right. Everybody's there. And then they start like this porno groove, and it's like, bow, wow, wow. And you see like Jimmy Fallon in the foreground. He's like, this week, the Congress announced delays in the stimulus package. Then they go back, and you see the guy from the Roots like go, you gotta give me some of that money.
Right, exactly. Now, you are currently living in Philly, where the Roots are from, if I'm not mistaken.
As a matter of fact, one of my guitar instructors is friends with the Roots.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, Dave Manley, good jazz player.
Dave Manley?
Yeah, that's his name.
Dude, best name ever. Hi, I'm Dave Manley, friends with the Roots. You may know. Here's my business card. Friend of the Roots. You know what I always wondered? If somebody could go out there and just hand out business cards, they're like, hi, Bill Gates' grandson. Or something like that, just like, hey, cousin of Bill Gates.
No one's stopping him. You can make your own business cards.
Yeah.
Just go to a store and get them.
Go to Kinko's.
Making my own.
Straight flipping copies. Little Lonely Island reference there. I know you're liking that new album.
Yes, I am. I like how many different people are featured on it. It's really good. So shout out to the new album that's come out here.
But so Jimmy Fallon is not in the Lonely Island, but he does have a talk show. And any word on Kevin and Alex from Dig Nation? I know they're supposed to be on there.
Yeah, he didn't mention them coming on there, but he did mention like having people from a website.
Oh.
Like,
people from a website.
Well, no. Like in the Conan skit at the beginning, he's like, who do you have next week? And he's like, John Hargender from bizrate.com.
Right, exactly.
And they also talked about how he's going to be treating video games release like movie releases, like Cliff Bleszinski or whatever is going to be on.
Right, like video game celebrities.
Right. And so that might be cool. Lastly, Van Morrison was on, and indiscernible what on earth he was singing.
Awesome. I will have to add him to my What Are They Saying playlist, which I call Guess That Fogerty, as a tribute to the lead singer of CCR, Creedence Clearwater Revival. Because honestly, go listen to Down on the Corner and tell me, I dare you, what those lyrics are.
Without looking them up.
Yeah. At one point, Rufus hits the wide crow. That's all I'm saying.
And the devil's on kazoo.
Yes, the devil is on kazoo. So that is your news story. Awesome, Jimmy Fallon.
What's going on with you, Brad? What was your favorite news story this week?
What is going on with me? I got major problems. But besides that, Narnia lives.
Really?
Yes. I had reported in a previous episode that Disney has split ways with Walden Media, who makes the Narnia Chronicles of Narnia films. And that sort of left the franchise up in the air until just recently when it was announced that Fox would be releasing the next film. And so Fox is setting up Voyage of the Dawn Treader for a December 10th, 2010 release. And if you didn't like Prince Caspian, here are 3 reasons why you should care, as per me, Brad, about the Voyage of the Dawn Treader.
Okay, number 1.
Okay, number 1. First of all, new director, a British fellow named Michael Apted, who directed the movie Amazing Grace in 2006, which a lot of people said was really good, about abolitionist movement in the UK. Number 2, half of the children are gone. If you remember, Rob, I know you love this story. Only Lucy and Edmund remain at the beginning of this book, and their cousin Eustace joins them, who will be played by the kid from Son of Rambo, if you got to see that movie. Number 3, this is basically a seafaring story. They are looking for the 7 lost lords of Narnia, and it takes them to all these different islands. Each one's weirder than the last. One of them has a lake that turns people into gold. One of them, is just entirely in darkness, and it makes your nightmares real. They find a guy in there who's just screaming. So if you lost interest in the series, December 10th next year, look for that in the theater.
I believe I will. All right.
I believe you will also.
Have some of that chronic.
Yes. All right. That's so played
right.
out. But let's move on now to our main topic of discussion, which I'm going to let you start off this week because about a month ago you called me and you were like, Brad, I'm looking at this comic book and it was catching your eye. So why don't you tell us about Flight Volume 4?
Flight Volume 4, exactly. Eye-catching indeed. The cover of this particular one, you see what appears to be a man riding a dove, and then further back, a flotilla of flying whales with what looks like machinery strapped to their backs. Just a really interesting, imaginative cover. And that sets the tone for basically what Flight is. This isn't a straightforward comic book series like some may know. This isn't an ongoing narrative. Rather, it is a compilation of short stories and basically short comics.
Yeah, only a couple pages long each.
Exactly, by multiple story writers and multiple illustrators, so they can, dabble in something a little bizarre.
There's many nationalities represented, and you can even tell in the art style and in the viewpoints, even some of the messages.
Yep.
But so let's get into the content here.
Sure.
What overall did you think of this as a whole, reading through Flight Volume 4?
As a whole, I definitely recommend it. I feel like I got my money's worth out of Flight Volume 4.
How much was it? $25? Or?
Yeah, it's about $24.95 in the U.S., $32 in Canada.
and I got it used for like $15. So,
there you go.
Yeah, certainly for pure content, you get a lot for your money.
It makes for good, and I hate to say this, but it's true. It makes for good bathroom reading.
No, I will say it if you won't. I was sitting on the toilet finishing this book today, and I was like, should I mention this on the podcast? And whether I wanted to or not, I am now. So. Yes, bathroom reading indeed. If I'm not using my laptop, I love to have a good comic, and this one I thought was perfect for that.
Right.
It's just short enough.
You get a short story, go, and then it's cool. This might be a good series to just even subscribe to, and I think almost anybody can read these and get into what they're having, because it's small bite-sized stories. It's cool. You don't have to know the legacy of X-Men or anything like that. It's just here it is, and it's good. So,
This is exactly my speed of comic book.
Yeah.
You told me quite a while, I think it was when the Super Bowl was on is when you told me about it. And so I've had this literally on my nightstand for, a month or so. And I would just reach over and grab it and read a story and put it back. It's not a big time sink. And if you don't like a story, and I will say that the quality of the stories in here does vary pretty wildly.
Yeah.
And the good news is, as they say in Colorado, if you don't like the weather, wait 5 minutes. I'll be reading another one in a few pages. So I loved that about it.
Yeah.
But so let's go ahead and jump into some of our favorite stories here, because I think we're still kind of talking in vagaries, and I want to give people specific kind of examples of what's in here.
Well, it's hard to pick a favorite, but I think one that just I really enjoyed reading was Cyclops by Israel Sanchez. I don't even think there's any dialogue in this one. It almost has that Samurai Jack look, like opaque colors, basic shapes. But it's kind of this touching story about like a Cyclops, him being kind of, like scary, emerging, from the ground, and everybody being afraid of him. But he, in his own secret way, just takes care of this village. And like makes
he ends up being the Cyclops with the heart of gold.
Right, exactly. Though he still eats small animals, which is kind of frightening.
It was funny.
Yeah, it's funny. It's touching. I think that.
I don't want to overblow it because it's like 3 pages long, but
right. But still, in that short period of time, I really was touched by it, and I thought it was a really fun story to read. So, Brad, what was one of your favorite stories here?
For pure laughs, The Rabbit Mayor.
Yes.
I enjoyed very much. And I actually have the preview up here in my web window, and that's because a lot of this is available at flightcomics.com to preview. You can check out a couple pages, but The Rabbit Mayor has a very sepia tone style to it. It's just sort of black and browns and very silhouetted animals. But this story is by John Clausen, and it's billed as a Mayan folktale or a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And it's these woodland animals, cute woodland animals, but talking in very kind of dark tones, specifically like the bear. The Rabbit Mayor is I'm sorry, let me start from the beginning. The Rabbit Mayor is hiding out in a hole, in his rabbit hole, basically.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to come out because you've got all of these woodland animals surrounding the hole waiting for him to come out so they can kill him. And they make this very clear. And he's down there in the hole, and I love how it says the Rabbit Mayor did not answer right away. He was making a plan to get out of this. And then there's 3 panels where you just see him staring, and it says he had a plan now.
I think that's one of the funniest moments of the entire compilation.
I laughed out loud at that, and I won't spoil the ending either, but there's it's very short.
The image of this little earthworm going, "We're going to smash him to pieces, for there's a lot of us. Pity him."
Yeah, the turtle especially was vile. You don't expect a turtle to be evil, but the cool thing about this book is it runs the gamut of emotions that it evokes out of you.
Right.
You have sad things, but you also have really funny things. I mean, there were some that were actually there was one that actually was kind of heartbreaking. The relationship one with the guy that goes out in the rain, if you remember that one. Some of them feel like they're definitely pulled from real life experiences that these artists have had. One of them was actually about the comic book artist himself and how he struggles with like falling asleep at night and things like that. But I really liked the emotions that it evoked out of you, and I especially liked that a lot of them said something. At the end of the day, there is a little moral, kind of like a fairy tale.
Yeah. The one about the Hall of Windows, the one about the girl training for something that they don't let you know till the very end, and I think it's brilliant.
Yeah, it's a science fiction kind of twist and a real nice payoff on that one.
Yeah, where it goes. The opening story, the saga of Rex.
Rex Castaway, a little tiger-type creature with like a spike on his head, and he's in this sort of devastated planet that's being destroyed. And
very anime feel.
Yeah, very anime feel. And you go from very anime to like Mad Magazine cartoony to like Indian paintings.
Yeah, 24 Hours is just this really surreal, just kind of artistic thing to read, and it's up to you to kind of determine what it's all about.
The Forever Box, the story about the girl who finds that box, that was really cool. I like, and again, I want to make this more visual for the audience because obviously you can't see it, but the girl finds a box, something happens to her brothers, she's kind of left alone, and she has this box that they had found from like an antique auction or something that was from like a Chinese dynasty, and she decides to just sit inside of it, and it was rumored to have like involved time travel, this box, and so she gets inside of it, and the art in that was really nice.
It's sort of a metaphor maybe for depression, you might figure, or whatever.
There's a lot of stuff here. It's more of a science fiction / fantasy bend, so I will say if somebody is not interested in those things, most of the stories here revolve around that, but good feelings.
Roomy Pal?
Yeah, Roomy Pal.
That one was fun and also kind of
dark
eerie.
Too.
Yeah, exactly.
I read that to Amber, and she was like, oh. It's like, it just runs the gamut.
I think that in the end, this is a testament to the power of a short story, I think it's Anton Chekhov was a playwright who would always write very short things.
Right.
And him and his dad would always just argue because his dad was a novelist and would write things that would go on and on and on. And he'd say, well, why waste time with all these words whenever I can simply do it in a minute,
Right. I feel that way sometimes when I watch television shows that are just brilliant, and then I'll waste my money on some $8 3-hour movie that did not have near the impact.
Yeah, it's tough to say because I mean,
I'm not trying to kill off film as a medium. I'm just saying it's not necessary to have length in order to. I sound like a junk email now. Excuse me. It's amazing how a short story can be affecting.
Right. Because the story elements themselves, desire, a gain, a loss, a darkness, and then a reacquiring, and then happiness again. They can do it in that short of time span.
Like I said, it's a perfect pace for somebody who's busy. Very easy to recommend. So that is Flight, Volume 6, and there is Volume 1.
That was Volume 4.
Oh,
Flight Volume 4 was the one we reviewed. Volume 5 is out. Volume 6 is coming out.
That's right. I'm sorry. I apologize. And they are all this thick, 250 pages or so of just cool short stories. I'd encourage people to check it out.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that recommendation, Rob.
Not a problem.
That takes us to our nostalgia section of the show. Right before we wrap it up every week here, we like to gaze into the past and remember what it was like growing up geek. So this week, what comes to mind when I say fighting crime in a future time?
That would have to be cops.
You would be correct.
What does that stand for?
Yeah, what does that stand for? Cybernetic Organization of Police
Specialists.
I
don't know if it was
okay,
cybernetic.
we'll go with that.
It was cybernetic future. Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been.
Cops was a television show that we watched, I want to say late 80s, early 90s.
Early 90s.
As kids, and I just want to go, no real outline here. Let's just go stream of consciousness. Just what pops into your head about Cops?
First is just the cool characters. I would believe it is cybernetic because everybody's amped up with some sort of robotic stuff going on. And
you had the police, and then you had the gangsters, or the crooks, I think they were called.
Exactly. And I think they had, there's a distinction because most of the police... The robotic stuff was outside of them, not necessarily interfering with their humanity. And then the bad guys, you had robotic stuff fused to them. Most notably, yes. I remember the gangster who would open up his jacket and two pistols would fall out of his chest,
Or the machine guns.
Guns, and he'd just shoot people up. But I remember scoping out the toys because those were always fun. I had one named Gorilla, I think.
Apes, I think it was. Yeah.
That was it. And this guy who just he had this chicken walker exoskeleton that he could strap on. And I was always a fan of mechs, so that was obviously an easy sell for me.
But the good guys were headed up by Bulletproof, and I remember our brother Matt was really fond of Bulletproof, and he had dark sunglasses on and a trench coat. Mm-hmm. And,
because his torso was completely metallic. He wore a trench coat and stuff, but eventually if he went shirtless, he was completely machine.
Yeah,
awesome.
And I remember you could take the toy's shirt off, I think. If I'm not mistaken, he had a cloth jacket.
It was almost anime-esque, I gotta say. I mean, it was definitely that G.I. Joe style, if anything.
This was sort of the era, I remember, of lots of stuff coming from Korea or Japan where you'd see that kind of cool style. Saber Riders, I think, was another one where...
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, I mean, this is delving way back into the dusty parts of the mind. But they rode horses. They rode cybernetic horses. A Brave Star we've mentioned before on the show.
Ronin Warriors, anyone?
Yeah. Lots of In fact, I had a whole robot obsession around this time period. And I think... Remember, what was the show with ninjas? Remember Ninjas? That sounds really bad. Ninjas?
But that was...
oh, man, what was it?
Robot something.
Ninjas. My name is Ninjas. Was it just called Robots with a Z? Crap. Somebody's going to know the answer to that one.
Droids.
Ninjas. I'm Googling it right now. This could be bad.
Oh gosh.
Bots Master? Bots Master?
Bots Master. That sounds like it.
Bots Master. Yeah, the Bots Master. Holy crap.
And there would be this 3D vision thing that they would go into.
Yeah.
And they'd get let's bots or let's do this. And then it'd go and basically all it did was dislocate the background and have it sort of floating to one side. So you had that kind of parallax.
Okay, so it wasn't even really 3D. Yeah.
Right, but it was an effect that they did halfway through. Mm-hmm. And they had... Dr. Spatzo as the voice of the various minions. They'd be let us go away to kill him 999.
Yeah, that's oh crap. That's our second Dr. Spatzo reference in 2 weeks. We got to watch out.
Yeah.
Remember the scene in Bill and Ted where they pull their mouths open and there's robots underneath? I think it was in Bill and Ted Part 2.
That's Bogus Journey.
Bogus Journey. That's Bogus Journey material if there ever was some.
Right.
That I just loved rewinding that and watching that over and over again. I think one of them pulls his abs open and there's robot stuff underneath. Blew my mind. Loved it.
Very big in that time period. The whole Terminator thing.
Yeah,
all that.
Dad wouldn't let us watch the scene where he was naked, and I remember we told our grandfather that, and he went, "A naked man. See that in the shower every day."
Exactly. It wasn't even that full frontal.
No, it was sidal, dorsal. Oh, God.
Dorsal,
more
sidal.
Things.
Second episode where we're talking about male nudity as well.
All right, we're going to have to end this show before it gets worse. But if you grew up geek like us and you would like to share any topics that you'd like us to address, feel free to do so. You can find us online at growing-up-geek.com. So without further ado, my name is Brad.
Party on, dudes.
And we'll see you next week.